Hello, I'm Cara Alberts-Turner.
And I'm Liam Horrigan, and welcome to You're On Tonight, the podcast all about understudies in the theatre industry, the people who step in and save the day when the unexpected happens.
And this episode, we have our first ever director, Georgie Staight, who has worked on so many incredible shows. She's the Associate Director of the West End and Broadway smash hit Operation Mincemeat, and she was the Associate Director on the National Theatre's Hamlet.
Honestly, this week is an absolute treat of an episode because we talked to someone who has been working closely with understudies her whole career.
She has such a brilliant perspective on that, and it was great to hear about the understudy experience from a different side that we haven't heard before.
This episode really is one of my absolute favourites. So, here we go.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're so excited to have you on. And you are our first director we're having on the show, which we're really, really excited about. To start with, how did you get into directing? What was the process of getting into that?
How did I get into directing? I guess through university. I went to Bristol and didn't study theatre, studied philosophy. And I guess like a lot of people got into theatre through the sort of drama society there. Thought I could act. Really can't. So then I was like, but was never told you could be on the other side, like growing up. So sort of, I guess, gradually started flexing more directing muscles at Bristol and then went and studied at Mountview an MA in directing. So trained for a year and then straight after that sort of set up a theatre company. So I did a lot of producing and directing of new work in the first sort of few years. Yeah.
That's great. And you're learning loads of skills in that process then as well, aren't you? Like doing the producing and all that stuff. That's a lot of work. But also you get to the end of like a year of doing it and you're like, oh, actually, I know how to do loads of things that I never even set out to learn.
Totally. And actually to have had that experience on the producing side, I found it incredibly stressful. Like I'm not someone who can deal with other people's money. It's not something that you got to have a certain disposition. But yeah, you learn so many skills and I think it's really useful, especially as a director. I think everyone should do a stint stage managing and do a stint producing as a director to sort of know what probably the two toughest jobs, and maybe a stint being an understudy as well, to sort of know what that experience is like. Yeah, it was definitely, but also just, I guess, cutting your teeth on new work as well was something that I've always felt really passionate about and something I still do a lot of now. Maybe at a time where it was easier to make new work quite cheaply and just go out and do that 10 years ago than it is now. So I'm sort of aware we were quite lucky in running a company and being able to put on these shows and not take massive financial risks in the same way you do now, you know.
And because obviously you're working on something new and then developing it, as a director, that's not always the case, right? Sometimes you're given a script and you go straight into it. Did that attract you to doing new work, kind of getting a chance to develop it from the beginning?
Yeah, totally. I used to write a bit myself, don't anymore, again, people that are just much better at than me. But I've always loved that sort of developing new work alongside a writer and being that sort of sounding board. Yeah. And being there from like an early stage in its genesis. I've always really loved that. Whether that be a show I'm going to direct or sometimes not, sometimes sort of separate to that. I guess you sometimes exercise quite similar skills with sort of adaptations or older piece of work, your revivals, because you're sort of quite often editing, you're doing like dramaturgical work in a slightly different way. I was shocked. I'm working on Hamlet at the moment at the National, and I was shocked by how much sort of dramaturgy there is. I guess it's 4 hours unedited, so you've got that, but then you're also picking bits from different quartos, from different folios. You're sort of piecing together your version and focusing on other parts of the story that you want to tell.
Oh, sorry. Hello? Oh, it's Andy. Andy, our omnipotent company manager. Fancy you calling. How are you?
Sorry about this.
Sorry, yeah. There's a problem. What are they doing? They're stuck in a conversation with an outlandish extrovert and they can't get out of it.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's my worst nightmare.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, we've all been there. Okay, no, I'll tell her. Yeah, thanks. You know she's a director, right? Okay, I'll tell her. Thanks. I'm really sorry about this, but unfortunately that was Andy, our omnipotent company manager, and there's been a bit of a problem. And Georgie, you're on tonight.
This is my worst nightmare. It's happening.
The panic is coming across you when you slowly realise what the call was.
Do we have time?
We've got time, sure, let's go.
You know the script, it'll be fine.
On,
know. That's very true. So you've worked both as a director and an associate on many shows. A lot of our listeners might not know what the difference is. So could you explain how those roles differ?
Yeah, of course. So I suppose the director is in charge of the sort of overall creative vision of the show. They're the sort of artistic shaper and steerer, and they gathered together all the different sort of departments to try and create a cohesive whole, lead on rehearsals and the sort of artistic shape of the whole thing. And then the associate, I guess, is there to support and uphold all of that. They're sort of the guardian, I guess, of the director's work. I suppose on some level that's being another person in the rehearsal room, another eye, another person to sort of bounce ideas off, hopefully a sort of trusted second eye. And then on a sort of more practical level, you rehearse in understudies across the rehearsal process, if there are understudies rehearsing, which might take place at different times. That might be concurrent to rehearsals. Sometimes that you don't do any of that till after opening night. It sort of takes place at different times. And then also, most of the time, a director will leave on press night. So then it's your job, whether that be a 2-month run or a year-long run, to sort of uphold the director's vision, I suppose, and note the show normally once a week or so. And sort of if understudies go on, be there to note them, support them, sort of maintain, I guess, the integrity of the show across a run, which is the part of the job I love, really love that.
What do you love about that bit specifically?
I think there's something sort of about the balance of the natural evolution of a show, which is important and right to keep things fresh. And you need to sort of reinvent every night a little bit. That's what makes it live and brilliant. And things evolve and more details found. But then there's a point where that can slip away, especially in comedy, or things get to start to be played for laughs or whatever that is. And so I guess having those conversations, and it is normally a conversations with actor rather than a don't do this. It's a has this gone a bit too far this way, or have it? I love that, and sort of working out what that original DNA is and which parts of that sort of natural growth are good and positive and which part just might need like reining in.
And with something like Operation Mincemeat then, where obviously the runs are, it's still going, it's running for a very long time, and you're working sometimes with different actors coming in and different swings or understudies. What does that look like in terms of taking new offers from actors and going, yes, that's really great, this fits your version of this show, and then keeping it on that track, that vision for the director? That must be a very difficult thing to balance.
It is. It's honestly, if I knew the answer, it'd be, it's so hard. It's so hard. And it's part of what's magic about that show, but part of what's really difficult, and about comedy in general, right? One actor can say the line in one way and then another actor comes on the next side, like, why isn't that landing in the way it should? It's a really difficult thing. And I think what we've discovered with that show, there are certain comedy beats, especially like physical comedy beats, which actually we've now like baked into the show, that I think we thought, let's be free, let's let actors discover. And I'm absolutely all for that. That has to be the case. But I think we were sort of, maybe on the first time we re-rehearsed it with new actors, I was sort of a bit too gentle with that, and actually then go, no, this is actually a really juicy comedy beat that you can give to an actor and they can make their own, but should be there. So I think it's a continual balancing act. And I think you've got to let actors find that. You've got to be trusting, because it takes longer than just a week of live shows to find that. It can take quite a long time to sort of hone that all.
And that's a cast change, but then you also work with understudies who might just get one go of doing it that month or however long. How do you then work with them outside of the room to make sure that when they go on, they, because they might not have a week to figure that out? As an associate director, you work closely with them. So how does that happen outside the room differently to maybe someone who's going to get a whole week to try it out?
I think with understudies, a lot of what especially on Operation Mincemeat, I sort of have to just trust their comedy bones, which is why in the auditions, we just, like, that's one of the things we really focus on. I have to trust that that's there and that they're smart enough to be able to sort of measure that with an audience and slightly adapt. And it's hard if you only have one show and you go, oh, that was what it was, and then you've got another month till you're on again. But I think so I sort of see a bit of my job is to steer that and shape that, but also make sure they're as like practically ready as possible, so their brain can be on that part of the relationship with an audience, especially in comedy, and that they know, especially with Mincemeat, it's such a mad technical show, that if they feel as like confident practically in what they're doing, then they'll be able to like play and be present.
That's really interesting as well, because you're saying if they feel confident. How do you, as an associate director, what's your role in sort of like giving them that sense of confidence? Because I imagine in an understudy rehearsal process, say, there are different objectives as a director to if you are directing the principal cast. Maybe you're working on character relationships or character development with a principal cast member, but then if you've got a matter of hours understudying, rehearsing an understudy, is there a different aim? Is it about trying to make them feel confident in the role? Or
it can be, I mean, with Mincemeat, actually, we pretty much rehearse as a company of 9. So we pretty much give everyone the set, like we really try to instill that ethos of like, we're a company of 9. It's not
great.
principals and understudies. So they're in the room learning at the same speed as the principals. They're in the same conversations about relationships. We really try and like instill that from the off, which I think is only benefited everyone.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a slightly different thing in that they're maybe not quite getting as much like practical rehearsal time, but we try to sort of run a number, switch them in, run it with them. Like it's all quite fluid
great.
because they're on so much as well. And, you know, but yeah, you are right. Often the job, it has to be, you have to shortcut things in a way where you might get, certainly that was the case on Hamlet, where you might have hours talking about the relationship between, you know, Claudius and Gertrude, and then with your understudies you've sort of got to shortcut that a little bit and go, let's just work off instinct, get on our feet, see what comes up. And you're also got the balance of sort of covering a role so that you're not coming in with wildly different offers to what that's also, I mean, that's a whole nother thing. That's such a difficult balance.
Well, I was so interested to ask you that because we both saw Hamlet and both loved it. We saw it this week.
Amazing.
Just thought it was fantastic. But as an understudy, you're coming into someone's interpretation of such a famous role, obviously. But it's very stylized. It's very specific in the way that you're choosing to portray Hamlet. How sort of slotting in does the understudy have to be? Because you can't wear tobacco and boys on your t-shirt and then come in with a very classical Hamlet, right? So how does that work? Because I just thought it was so interesting.
It's so, I've had lots of conversations with Hamlet's understudy Harry, because it's such a specific role to understudy that. And he plays Rosencrantz, so he plays quite a big role in the show. And I suppose that this production was built around this incredible actor, Hiran Abasagari, who plays Hamlet. And so Harry's got a hard job there, stepping in. And when this sort of production has been built around Hiran and this relationship he has with an audience and with the text. And I think Harry's so super, super smart as understudy, and he sort of understands, he's quite a different actor to Hiran. He's probably a bit less mercurial and physical and playful, and I guess you might say he's a bit more classical in that way. But I think he really understands the bits of what Hiran does that feel integral to the show, that relationship with the audience, for instance, that he's sort of developed, that he's like, no, that feels like it's really important. And then the bits that he's like, that's just not me. But it won't disrupt the energy of a scene. It won't disrupt the energy of the rest of the company. You know, it's about sort of not making wildly left field offers where everyone's like, what the hell is that? And sort of roughly being in the right place at the right time and all the rest of it. It's a really difficult balance. But I think the role Hamlet can take a lot of what is thrown at it. And really the role Hamlet, the actor feeds so much of that in a way that I've never seen with a different role. So it can take a lot. And I think actually it would be wrong for Harry to try and do an impersonation of Hiran, because it wouldn't serve anyone. Do you know what I mean? So I think there have been quite a lot of conversations about that. His main worry was the lines, because it's just a huge thing to cover. But he was on it by like week 2. He was off book. He's incredible. He's actually going on next week. So yeah. So we'll do. Yeah, I know. It was nice to have that advance notice though. So he was like, that we're doing a few rehearsals next week with the principal Gertrude and the principal Ophelia. We'll sort of rehearse a couple of those scenes, which is,
I mean, and it was the best portrayal of Ophelia I've ever seen. Oh my goodness,
she's amazing, Fran.
Just mind blowing. So I mean, I suppose Ophelia's understudy must have the same situation, because what was so beautiful about the show is that each actor sort of took their own form of these very, very famous characters.
Totally.
So every understudy's probably having, I suppose, the same issue of going, that's fantastic. Oh gosh, okay, how do I? But that's interesting what you said, sort of the integral bits. And,
totally. And I had this conversation with Sophia, who's Fran, who plays Ophelia's understudy, last week, and she was sort of, Fran's done something so incredible and so moving with the famous, I use mad, quote unquote, scene. And Sophia was going, it's quite overwhelming. Sophia's on stage watching it as a sort of nurse every night. So she sees her do it every night, and is like, you know, in some ways it's quite overwhelming watching how brilliant she is and covering that role. But in some ways it's amazing, because you basically get to take what you think you can achieve as an actor and what is brilliant, nick all the offers that you're like, that's amazing, and then slightly shape a thing around it.
It's really interesting what you said about sort of comparing maybe Operation Mincemeat and those kind of long-running plays, especially comedies that have their beats, and then a character like Hamlet or a character like Ophelia, where there is a lot more space for the interpretation of the actors, because that is like two very different kinds of jobs for understudies to do. Like if you're understudying a character where you can throw your interpretation at it a bit more, compared to if you've got, say, a comedy character in Mincemeat or The Play That Goes Wrong or whatever, where you're like, hit this beat, hit this beat, hit this beat, and then find those nuances in between. That's just really interesting to note, isn't it? The difference in jobs for understudies there in that sense.
Well, I suppose Play That Goes Wrong is the only other comparable, but of people who wrote it, were in it, created these characters, and then someone else is taking over. It's almost like, even if you're principal cast and the cast change, you kind of are in that world of an understudy going, someone built this, created this, I've got to step into it now, but I have to make it my own because I've got to do this for 9 months or so.
Totally.
How do you, I suppose, approach that with the actors, and then I suppose even a step further with the understudies when they first join, knowing that these people created a show?
Yeah, it's such an interesting one. It's, for the first time this year, we're going to do the show with people that have no connection back to the original cast, if that makes sense, because we're now on our 3rd cast change, but every time we've had people in the show who have been doing it and have at some point worked with the original cast, which is such, I don't think I've realised what a useful thing that is. And then suddenly when you're rehearsing in a whole bunch of new people who have never seen it with that original cast, the challenge is definitely greater to maintain whatever that magic was originally. And you know, there are different, I've definitely had producers say to me, show them the recording of the original cast doing it. And you're like, I don't think that's quite the way. What I would say is good writing, which this is amazing writing, really bakes in a lot of the things that you want to be there naturally. Smart actors reading that will deliver it in a way that works. Do you know what I mean? Because even if it's not with the exact same rhythm and intonation as the original cast, I think the writing can hold a lot. The really difficult thing, I think, is the tone of the whole piece, because it's sort of gender bending, and essentially they were comics doing musical theatre. You know, they weren't trained musical theatre performers. So their style of comedy is very like specific and a bit sort of niche, and can very easily sort of step into panto. Especially that there's a character in it called Hester, who's a sort of a 50-year-old woman in the story, secretary played by a 30-year-old man. And it's a really fine tightrope line to something incredibly beautiful and moving to sort of panto dame if you're not careful. And a lot of that is about the sort of smart acting choices and how to do that with integrity, and how to sort of just make an audience not even question that that's what's happening from the off. But it's such a, I'm a big believer in a cover the role, not the actor. And so smart actors, which we've been lucky enough to work with on Mincemeat the whole way through, can sort of see what it is about the DNA of that role that makes it work, but make it their own.
On that as well, we wanted to understand more, and also give a bit of a shout out to the way that the swing system works at Mincemeat, because just purely on the website, when you go and look at the casting and who's on that day, you've got spotlights on the various actors, and it's not actually, at least on the website, it's not credited as this person's a principal, this person's a swing. It's just who's playing the role that day. Which
I've never seen before, I don't think.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, that seems amazing. Has that always been the case?
That has always been the case. And you know what? That's in no small part down to the generosity of Spitlip, the original creators and writers, who sort of wanted to set that tone from the top. When we first started doing the show, the understudies would swing on sort of once a fortnight, because we felt that they need to keep match fit and to understand the intricacies of the show. We just felt, and this was when there wasn't guaranteed holiday and all the rest of it, we felt that they needed to, because it's such a complex show. And if you're not standing in the right spot at one point to grab a hat, then, you know, the whole set can fall down a scene later. It's like, it's one of those shows that's just sort of mad. So we felt like that was a really sort of vital thing. And it was bred from their suggestion, saying, actually, it feels like we're a real company of 9.
That's amazing, because we've talked to quite a lot of understudies who say, like, you know, they do feel the left out bit, or even in companies where they have every intention to make everyone a part of a company. Like you said, there is limited time. So that even in companies with every good intention, there'll still be moments where it's like, oh, we've left out. But when it's public facing, that's a huge statement, and a huge kind of, whatever show you see, you're going to see a great show. It doesn't matter if you see the people who created it or the understudies, because that is even a bigger gap, I suppose. So I think that's amazing.
It's also really bred from the fans, I should say, because the fans right from the off had seen the original creators do it in various forms before it got to the West End, but they'd never seen any of the understudies. And whenever the understudies went on, they would be there, you know, front row, and they created like this bingo card for all the different combos that could happen. So the fans are like such champions of the understudies, and they always are, and they always have been. And that's a really wonderful thing to see. And, if someone's on as a second cover last minute, they'll rush to buy tickets and go and support. And
That's awesome.
that definitely creates an atmosphere as well of, rather than that, the person we love is off tonight. Great, this person's on. We get to see how they've interpreted this role we all love. Like it's a really beautiful thing, I think.
That's really lovely. And it's a testament, as you were saying, to like, if it's done from top down and bottom up, like it really does breed that inclusive atmosphere. And hopefully more theatre can be like that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see why not.
Hero and horror stories is a section on the podcast where we talk about those two understudies, about those hero stories where they've gone on and they feel like they've been a superhero and saved the day, and horror stories where they feel like their bum's just clenching up because they're like, oh my God, I'm not ready for this. Have there been any experiences that you've had of hero stories or horror stories that you feel comfortable sharing, that you'd like to share, both of understudies that you've supported and been with, and also possibly from your own career as a director, being like, oh, this is a horror show, or we got the show on despite all of the effort?
So many. I worked quite a lot at the Watermill and did a version of the Wizard of Oz there for their Christmas show a couple of years ago. And we had 6 actor musos in the show, and sort of halfway through rehearsals, we had no understudies. It was just sort of 6 actor musos, all multi-rolling. About 2 weeks into rehearsals, the artistic director was like, last year we got in a sort of super swing to cover lots of the roles and to go on if needed because it's Christmas, there's illness. And I was like, I think that's a very good idea. I think we should have thought about this 3 weeks ago, but yes. And so we got this incredible actor in called Halcyon Sheen, who's an incredible actor musician, to come in, and she only had about 2 weeks rehearsal, sort of learn as much as she could of all 6 roles, of basically the whole show. But then also you've got the added complication in actor musician show. She's covering the Lion, who plays electric guitar, and she doesn't play electric guitar. She plays a harmonica. So how can we transpose that onto whatever it is? So she has to learn not only 6 tracks, but each different actor in that show probably played 2 or 3 different instruments at any one point. So to work out what, if there were any like lead lines in any of the songs, if they went off, that she could transpose onto something else. She did a lot of this work with the musical director. I was blissfully sort of ignorant of what was going on. But she ended up
the line.
Let me know. But she went on. I think I messaged her this morning to try and find out. But I think she went on for all 6 parts.
And what's that phone call like for you then, as a director? Because obviously we've talked a lot about what understudies go through in that process, in that moment, and what they're running through and what's going through their head. Is there anything that you do, like a role that you specifically then perform as the director, or is it just, well, good luck?
Good luck. See you there.
See you at the pub afterwards.
I guess quite often practically it might be going in for warm-up and being like, right, what do we want to run? What are you sort of making sure that someone's just calm and feels like just there to support the actor and whatever they need. And then I guess more practically watch the show. If something goes wrong, there's very little you can do, right? You're sat out there. It's not your job to control any of that. But to sort of note the actor if they're going to go on again, I suppose. Yeah. I'll always try and be there. But it's also, sometimes you've seen the show twice already that week and then you get a call and you're like, oh, I've got the strength to watch it a third time.
You mentioned a minute ago about it's really important to build trust. How do you do that in a rehearsal process? What's your process for creating a room that is filled with trust?
Yeah, it's so hard, right? Cast good actors. I don't just mean good actors, I mean nice people as well. Like, I mean, I've been lucky enough to be associate for Rob Hasty on the last couple of shows that have done Hamlet and Operation Mincemeat, who's just an incredible director. And he builds that from the start. I watch him do it with such skill. And just immediately giving actors ownership of choice, I think, making them feel like the show is theirs. It's a real skill, even though you can see that he's steering the ship. Yeah. He sort of gives them autonomy of choice so much and hears everyone out, listens to everyone's voice, no matter what size of role they're playing. It's a real skill to, especially when you've got 18 people in a company, to sort of listen to all of that, but then to also go, okay, let's pick and choose of what works. It's hard to put into words, isn't it? But I think it's about building actors that are curious, that really like want to sort of find interesting versions and not just take route one, and actors who are interested in serving the story and telling the story in the most like interesting and clear way. If we lead with that rather than sort of egos, Rob just hires brilliant people who are endlessly curious and want to sort of dig into the text. And I think that nurtures an environment where everyone feels really safe to like take risks. It's also a thing to sort of go, okay, I'm going to try something, it may not work. That's a big thing, I think, that you can have a room where you feel able to happen. Fran, who plays Ophelia, when she sort of first came in to do that sort of famous scene in Act 4, we sort of talked about it for a while, and then she just said, can I just do it? I've got an offer on it, can I just do it? And she just sort of came in and did this incredible thing. And she came in with sort of a fully baked version of the scene that she had just, I can't really describe it. It just sort of worked. And everyone in the room was just like reeling from it just happening live in front of us. And it hasn't really changed much since that first offer in like week 2 that she gave. But I remember her saying like, well, she's the most sort of, such a humble, incredible human. I remember her saying like, it's only because I felt safe enough to make all those offers in this room. I thought actually there's some truth to that in the way that Rob builds a room where actors feel safe enough to come in and be really bold, and understudies feel safe enough to come in and not just have to sort of photocopy a version of the principal, but make it their own within the confines of the production, you know?
Yeah.
It's a really delicate thing, I think.
Yeah.
I think an audience's relationship is changing with understudies as well. Maybe I'm naive because I think they're amazing. And if I see an understudies on and I'm going to see something else, I'm always quite excited to see that. But
Yeah.
I do think, maybe not in big name shows, but I do think audiences' relationship, they're understanding more about what that is.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
It's a good question. Maybe a few, I don't know, maybe I'm being naive, but
No, I think you're
you're right.
Because we've had a few other people who have said that we've asked other guests about experiences, especially when they've been covering names and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've said that actually the guests that have talked about stories in recent years, as opposed to ones from 15 years ago,
Yeah.
it has been much more positive. I wonder if social media has an impact on that and
Yeah.
people are more aware potentially.
COVID also did. I suppose
true.
you're just lucky
Yeah.
to get to see the show if it's not going to get cancelled because too many people are sick. But yeah, I think you're right. But I can't put my
No,
finger
it's hard.
on why.
But I feel the same way.
But I do think we're hoping that this show will kind of help move that way as well, that you can have an understanding of, because people often don't understand what understudies do.
Yeah.
And so having people understand it a bit more.
The number of times when I've been understudying in the past and like I'd go to a family barbecue and my
always
uncle would
the
say,
family
"Did you get paid for it?"
it's a volunteer role.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. No, I'm just work experience, mate.
And I wanted to ask, because Operation Mincemeat went to Broadway.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, you know, an incredible journey for the show and to go there. But did the team that was in the West End all go, or you had to hire people when you were out there, or how did that work? Because I imagine that's a more complicated puzzle.
And a really different,
Yeah.
in relation to understudies, a really different puzzle out there. It's fascinating. But yeah, we're lucky enough to go with all the sort of original West End creative team. So all the creators, Spitlip and the original cast all went. So we rehearsed here for a month and we cast 5 American understudies.
Right.
So cast them out here, and then they came over here to rehearse the show,
Oh,
which was really cool.
Yeah.
And I think the idea, I remember the producer saying it'd be amazing because, you know, they get to actually have the London experience, go around, and sort of, we had an image of us all going off to like Churchill war rooms together, and obviously that never happened. We just actually, it's quite a long show to rehearse. But they all came over, and they're amazing. And then we sort of opened it out there, and we all went over for a couple of months, and it's still running, which is amazing because it's been a tough year on Broadway for new work.
Yeah.
Really tough. But it was fascinating having the American understudies perspective, as a few of them had just got off quite big understudy jobs of varying high profile people and shows and all the rest of it, and they were amazed by the British ethos, which I don't think is just unique to Operation Mincemeat. I think a lot of shows really sort of rehearse as a full company, and they couldn't believe, they said normally we might sit in a rehearsal room for 4 weeks at the side, watch and not get up or sing a single note once. We have to do that either in our own time, or an associate takes us off into another room and does it, but we sit at the side on a chair and we watch. And that's obviously not every show out there, but they're like, it's very much you learn by watching. And so on day 2, when we said, okay, why don't you get up and have a go at it, they were sort of they couldn't really believe it. So it was really interesting. It's definitely a slightly different, I don't know if you've heard that before from people, but it's a slightly different.
No.
I haven't had a chance to talk to anyone who has that experience of America, so I think
No, but I think that's really interesting as well, because a lot of the time, I think when I talk to actors and creatives in the industry, it might just be a kind of natural British reserve or cynicism, but I feel like there's a perspective that Americans do things better. Like there's more money out there, there's more opportunity, all this sort of stuff. So that's really interesting and kind of nice to hear as well, that there was an ethos of equity, conviviality that was that's something to celebrate and be proud of.
Yeah.
that's so interesting that there's a difference. Did you find anything else different in the way that they approached understudying? I suppose if you've got a different experience of having to sit and watch, you might have a different tactic to learn things.
Yeah,
or...
I think they were a lot more, we'll stand in the spot and say the lines in the exact way. I can't can't quite describe why, and I don't have enough experience of working out there to know why, but they were a lot more ready to sort of, I suppose, be imitations of the role, which I don't think is necessarily the right thing, but they were sort of surprised by the freedom that was maybe offered to them. And I don't quite know why that was. It maybe came from the fact that a few of them had covered quite big names out there as well.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think the big difference in working out there is how unionized everything is, and the sort of that is just insane. I think we were 6-1 crew-wise numbers out there to hear. So for every one crew member we have in the West End, we have 6 out on Broadway.
Oh, wow.
Like, that's how many sort of more people are needed to run the show. It is a bigger house out there, but also just, the unions have so many, to sometimes the advantage, sometimes the disadvantage. That's what I'll say.
Right. Very diplomatic of you. But yeah, that's so interesting that
it's a huge
So then
machine.
it's just a whole much bigger team you're working with as well, which must be different, right?
And amazing, but also with Mincemeat, not necessarily how the show was created. The show was created with like 5 of them in their bedrooms initially, sort of doing it, and then suddenly out there you've got a props team of 10, and it's amazing. It's like such a privilege, but you can see why it's so hard for work to get made out there, so expensive. It's crazy when you need that many people to sort of put on a show. It's just
And then on a similar note, Hamlet's going out as well, isn't it?
To Brooklyn Academy of Music.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Really excited. Yeah. And hopefully a lot of the original cast will come out for that as well. That's going to be amazing. It's I've never worked at BAM, so I'm not quite sure of the setup there. But yeah, it'll be we're out there I think for six weeks, maybe doing
amazing.
Out there. Be really incredible. Yeah.
So that's the West End, the National, and Broadway.
Yeah.
If you're picking, what excites you?
Tour
And a
next
UK tour. Sorry, I forgot. Oh, gosh.
Oh my God.
I mean, what excites you if you're looking forward? I know you obviously don't want to wish away, but what excites you looking forward? Because those are 4 massive things to tick off the bucket list.
Yeah. Well, I mean, next year I'm sort of working a little bit more on some new projects with people, but I've been lucky enough to have some quite big associate gigs the last couple of years, which have been amazing. And as you probably know, new musicals take such a long time to develop. So sort of it's that thing of trying to keep those irons in the fire of creating and developing new work with wonderful writers like Danielle. So trying to sort of keep those irons in the fire alongside other things, working on a sort of a new musical, which I'm really excited by, and developing an adaptation of a story with another writer. So trying to keep those things alive, because I'm aware that the timeline on those and the tail can be a lot longer. So that's where I'm going to try and put a bit more of my focus on next year. We'll see.
And you mentioned about how it used to be a little easier, I suppose, to put new work on. But it seems like you're still very dedicated to new work and putting that on. Why do you think that's so important?
That's a great question. I love telling new stories, to be honest. There's huge value in telling old stories in new ways, right? But I think there's something incredibly special about that first time you put something on that's never been seen before. And you've sort of got an audience there who are so willing to be taken on the story, and you have genuine surprise, right? You have the ability to genuinely surprise an audience because they haven't seen that particular story before. You have that ability with Hamlet, right? You can still sort of, to some extent, but still to some extent, a lot of the audience come in knowing what happens to Hamlet at the end of Hamlet.
Yeah.
Which
Not
I love.
so many gasps.
Not so many. Although you'd be surprised. In Mincemeat, every night when they go, we've just had word, Hitler's moving his troops out of Sicily. We want the sort of start of winning the war. You get gasps every single night. You're like,
I wonder how this is going to end.
You all know, we've all sat through history. But yeah, I think those relationships with writers and actors, when you're in a new room working on something completely new and you have the ability to shape it together, I think is really special.
Yeah.
And that moment where you haven't, deadlines are so useful, you're right, but where you don't have deadlines, you don't have someone that you know you're pitching it to, you're just 2 or however many people voice noting on a walk or in a room collaborating, and it is just free. You're just like, there's no strings attached. This is the bit that is just pure fun. We can just shoot the shit, talk about ideas, all that sort of stuff. And I think that's such a lovely thing to have alongside these, like, we've got deadlines, we've got this reason stuff. That's like you say, that feeds the soul of a creative, doesn't it?
Totally. I worked on a new musical last year with this incredibly talented musical duo called Flo and Joan, called One Man Musical. And I came on board relatively early in that process. They'd sort of written the first 20 minutes, and it's a sort of musical parody about Andrew Lloyd Webber. And because they're sort of comedians by background, I guess, their process was very much, right, let's write the thing, get it into a work in progress, very, very early stages, and then work out, I guess there's such an easy barometer with comedy of like work out what lands, what doesn't, go back, do some more writing. And they'd booked in work in progress essentially every sort of 2 weeks along the process. And often with sort of writing plays, it can be a lot more fragile, right? And you sort of want to get it to a place that feels like it's on slightly more solid ground before sharing it. But they were just, there was no sort of, it was amazing. They would just straight away up, share it in the Bill Murray in a pub with a friendly audience. It's great, isn't it? It was great.
Yeah.
But I found that process like incredible, and there was so much to be said for that. And it was developed in relationship to an audience, and I got to sit there and watch it and go, oh, that's landing, that's not quite, and oh, let's take it in this direction. It was really, really cool.
That's so interesting, because I'd never thought about that, how comedians, that's the way they develop things,
right?
But we definitely don't do that in theatre, because it's almost like, let's protect it so no one rejects it early.
Right? Yeah.
But that's so interesting.
And it can kill a thing,
beneficial.
you know, if you get it too early in front of an audience and it doesn't quite go the way you want it, it can sort of, you know,
it's such a small world, the theatre industry, that I suppose one person sees it not at its full ready form, and they almost like could write it off. But
totally, or a
that's so
writer
interesting.
loses faith in it, you know.
Completely.
It's
Completely.
But I think there's so much to be said for that if you can just go and share your work and do it, and sort of it's quite egoless way to work. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Very
I
cool.
love Flo and Joan. And
Yeah,
I
me too.
wasn't around, so I didn't get to see One Man Musical, but I've seen them live. I love Flo and Joan so much.
Hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll come back at some point. And the actor
so
Georgie,
clever and funny, obviously, but
they're amazing.
Yeah.
They're amazing musical minds. They're brilliant.
Yeah.
They need to write everyone's musicals. They're great.
Yeah. That's so cool though, because you've worked on such a breadth of things with different people and different like backgrounds in terms of like comedy or Shakespeare or whichever. It just seems like you just love working on different projects and learning from each one. And it's really inspiring to see that, because some people it's like, I do Shakespeare. I do Shakespeare. And that's it. That's really cool.
And
really,
I think
really
that's
cool.
probably because I think that's probably because like it's about the relationships in a career that I've built. That's what like Rob, for instance, that's a sort of really like meaningful, incredible. I've learned so much from working with him, and that's how I sort of came to work on Hamlet, I suppose, in some way through doing that. So a lot of it, and I think that's probably what I'm always telling young directors is to build relationships, not contacts. Like that horrible dirty word networking that you get told when you're younger. It's like that's not true, because that implies some sort of weird work mixer where you're all standing up and it's about building relationships, right? It's about sort of meeting writers, actors, whatever it is, and building those meaningful connections. Taking it back to Daniel Pearson right at the top of the show, like that's a relationship that has been so sort of consistent at different points in our for both of us in our working career.
Networking just makes it very transactional, doesn't
Right?
it?
Yes,
Whereas
that's
actually, if you have a human connection with someone,
Yeah.
whether or not you work with them professionally, it's got value outside of the work that you might or might not put on.
Totally.
So yeah, it's interesting. It gets talked about a lot at the beginning of people's careers, I think.
It's the wrong word, isn't it?
yeah.
It's not.
Pretty much everyone that I've ended up working on projects with, like Cara, like whoever, it started as a friendship first, if
Yeah.
you know what I mean, rather than like a business transaction or
Yeah.
like a creative partnership initially. I think it's that thing where, and that's not always the case, obviously, but it kind of pays homage to what you just said about building relationships and building those contacts rather than just networking.
Yeah.
Especially in the era of the sort of multifaceted creative, right? People are actor writers, director writers, producer, director, actor, whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's you never quite know who the next person
Yeah.
is that you're going to work with, or
That's really
It's interesting, isn't it? Because if you are networking, you're meeting someone and you're saying, I do this, please hire
Yes.
me for this. But if you're introducing yourself and making a human connection, you get to know the whole person. So then there's that one random weird thing that you do that then 6 months later they're like, I know someone who does that. And then it becomes because you're learning about a person rather than
Totally.
like a product. It's interesting. So we like to end the episode with quick fire questions, but very often they're not quick fire answers. So don't feel that you have to say yes, no, blue, red, whichever.
Okay.
Take your time answering them. But to start with, what has been the most proud moment of your career? Nice and light.
Just a small question.
Just, you know.
To kick us off.
You know what? I hate answering questions like this.
Well, you're going to enjoy the next 15 minutes.
Yes.
You know what?
Sorry.
Maybe walking into the National to do Hamlet on day one, getting my lanyard. It wasn't getting my lanyard. That's not the actual answer. But walking in on day one of rehearsals for that was a pretty proud moment. That was cool.
I bet.
Yeah, massive. That's so cool.
Does the lanyard give you any extra, like, does it get you into rooms or anything?
Oh, yeah, underground. You can go under the river. I'm joking. You can't.
I was going to say, I've got to get me one of those. Have you got it with you?
Very, very rare that someone else does that to him. So thank you. Thank you very much.
It gets you 10% off at the world's most expensive bar, the Understudy. So there you go.
What do you love about your job?
The people. That was quick,
Yeah,
right?
that was a great
quick.
answer.
That was super quick.
Yeah.
That was super quick.
That's a fantastic answer. Okay, what's the latest notice you've ever had to give an understudy to go on?
In the interval? Is that quite late?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
I'd say
minus
we've had
time.
Yeah, it's minus time. We've had an interval swap. We definitely had a post warm up, actors coming into warm up and going like, "Oh no, I thought I was well enough," pushing through, and then so sort of an hour. I don't think I've ever had 5 minutes before a show. I've had mid show and I've had about an hour before a show.
Yeah.
And in,
oh, God.
Sorry, no. I was
saying-
going to ask a joke question.
I'll ask mine then. Mid-show, do you get involved or you're like,
No,
forget it,
No,
good luck?
company manager. I stay away from. Yeah.
Well, this is the thing, and I'm guessing you're never tempted during the interval to be like, oh, I'll just keep that on airplane mode, just in case. And then you're there with your glass of red wine, and you just say, that's not the same person as that one.
Yeah, I know, and I'm also never going to be there. There are lots of directors who were originally actors, and so suddenly if someone needs to go on and the person isn't quite prepared, they'll step on script in hand. I'm also never going to be that person. There was a sort of joke about it early in the Hamlet when we hadn't done all the understudy runs and someone needs to come on as a servant in just one scene and sort of do it, and I was like, even that I would be shaking in the wings, like that'll, yeah.
So I was going to ask actually if there was a role that you were suddenly thrown on for, what would you want it to be?
A non-speaking part.
Non-speaking part, fine. Very good.
If you could direct or associate direct any show, what would it be?
Legally Blonde the musical.
Oh, great answer.
I saw your version of it.
Love you. No, I mean, joking aside, I think that is one of those expertly
good.
crafted musicals in the history of time. Fun Home would also be up there. Musicals at the moment that I'm that are on my sort of rostra to direct. As an all-time sort of career aim, Streetcar Named Desire at some point.
Nice.
Hello. Hi, Andy. It's Andy again, the Omnipotent Company Manager. How's it going? Yeah? No, she's on her way. Yeah. Is he still in the conversation? Oh, he's pitching a screenplay. Oh. Yeah, all right, she's coming. Thanks. Bye. I'm really sorry, but unfortunately, Georgie, you're on tonight. You have to go, but thank you so much.
It's been such a joy speaking to you both. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it from us this week. You've been listening to You're On Tonight, produced by and recorded at the Sound Company in London.
And if you've enjoyed the show, turn on automatic downloads to never miss an episode. Like, subscribe, share, follow, etc., etc., etc. We are on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at You're On Tonight. And tell your friends, spread the word, pass this episode around.
And get in contact. If you have comments, suggestions of guests, questions on how understudying in the industry works, let us know. Or if you're an understudy with fantastic stories you want to share, then get in contact through all of those socials at You're On Tonight.
Maybe you'll be called by the understudy phone soon.